I also met a Puerto Rican girl on the highway, and we got off on California, and I met her at the Popeyes. So I got exchanged phone number at the California Popeyes.
This is the most Chicago story I've ever heard.
I met a Polish girl and a Puerto Rican girl.
I met a Polish girl in traffic on the Dan Ryan. Then I met a Puerto Rican girl.
It was on the
California exit right off of, that Popeyes. Oh, yeah, it's a good Popeyes over there on California and Ashland. That's so funny.
Great.
Yeah, and then the Puerto Rican girl, I remember going on a date with her, and I took her to
Popeyes.
She was so ghetto, this Puerto Rican girl. And I picked her up and she came and I like I was telling you before that you said ask you like what I'm into. Like I like cholas and stuff like that. I like
How Mexican are you before we decide whether or not you're allowed to say these things?
half.
You're half. All right, that's enough.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. You can say it.
But I like a little ghetto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Talk back. What?
Well,
Can me and Vic go on the record that we don't
We are
endorse?
not part of
we
this.
are not a part of this
Man,
conversation.
let's just go back to talking about fat people because that's safe. I don't like where this conversation is going.
So what happened with
so
your?
I picked her up and I was like, where do you want to go to eat? She's like, I don't care, wherever. But she had like that Rosie Perez voice. Like it was very
Rosie Perez is very sexy. I got to think for Rosie Perez.
And that's and like you said, those are what's that I'm attracted to that.
Yeah.
I like that, And I took her to Bob Sand, which is no longer in existence, which was a sushi place on Division, like Division Wood.
Yeah.
And I took her there, and she fucking like lost her mind there. She's like, "What the fuck is this shit?" And just started
don't do the
like,
voice.
I was like, "Wow!" Like she was doing. I'm doing my best, Rosie Perez.
I would prefer if you didn't.
But like I do that voice with Johnny, because Johnny's Puerto Rican, so we do that voice back and forth.
We need Johnny in the room.
Yeah,
then.
we got to get one.
We got to get him in the room to give you permission. No, I'm just fucking around. So what happened after you took her? You did her in the butt.
I did not do her in the butt, but
all your stories are the same, man.
She was very sweet, and I did like it. She tasted very good.
All right.
Oh, man.
I thought you were about to be sweet and say something nice about her.
I am saying something about her. She tasted very good.
I thought you were going to say something about her character or agency or
So
something.
you can tell your mom. You tell your mom, hey, I didn't do her in the butt, but she tasted great.
Oh, God. Your poor mother. Your poor overworked mother.
That's very
Okay,
fun.
so that Polish girl didn't work out. You did her in the butt. What about that nice Puerto Rican girl? She was delicious.
She did.
She was absolutely delicious.
I enjoyed her. There's certain like.
Haven't you ever had a girl of another ethnicity taste better than another ethnicity?
I don't want to. I don't know.
Yeah, he's only had
Vic,
one.
back me
it's,
up here.
Yeah, it's not untrue.
Yeah, some girls just they taste different than
I
other.
think it's so more so. It is ethnicity based, but it's also more, I think, girl to girl, because some girls are just know how to do it, take care of themselves.
Sure.
There's a lot of maintenance. Yeah, know how to do it. Yeah.
There's 10 usable minutes.
I know. Wait, I have a good story about, you said pick play. So this was I think it was in college, taking the Metra. Okay, and Metra is the train that goes from the suburbs to Chicago.
Correct.
And for some reason, I was like staying at my parents' house, which live out there. I wasn't staying in the city. And the Metro has these cars that are called quiet cars.
Fuck cars.
Yeah, butt cars. You do it in the butt up there. So these cars it's like usually during rush hour times. You're not supposed to talk or listen to music. It's a quiet car. So I'm on one of these quiet cars, like 5 o'clock, and I'm in there's these type of seats where you face the other person. So it's just like
like we are right now.
yeah, like super close,
Right.
like an inch away. So I get in my little seat, and it's four people can fit in there. So it's packed. It's rush hour traffic. So a girl sits across from me, and then 2 people sit on our right. So we're like packed in. So me and this girl are like an inch away. This girl's super attractive. I'm immediately into her, but I'm like, fuck, it's a quiet car. Can't say anything. So we start going. She looks at me in a certain way, like we both kind of clock it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna try something. So these people on the right are listening to music. They're kind of tuned out. I take my phone out and I go into just like my own, like an iMessage, and I say, hey, and I just type it on my own phone, and I hold the phone to her and then give it to her. Then she types back and she goes, hi. And then we just start a whole conversation.
Oh, that's cute.
See, that's adorable.
Super cute.
Super adorable.
We do the whole conversation. It gets progressively more like fun and, flirty. And then we get to her stop and she goes, I was like, oh, do you want to like give me your number now? Because it's all been on my phone.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I need to know how to continue this, right? And she goes, I have a boyfriend, and then gets up and leaves. And I was
She
like,
wrote that. She texted I had a boyfriend.
She said that. I'm like, you can open your mouth the whole time and just said you have a boyfriend. But I was like, this is sweet. This is a sweet moment. I'm very happy it happened. It was cute.
Yeah, it is a sweet
Past the
moment.
time, but it hurt a lot because I was like, the first time you speak, you tell me it's not for me. You know.
Try to break him up.
Well, that's why. Well, she's like, I can give you my
question.
number, but I have a boyfriend. And then I was like, well, I don't.
You're on a train.
Yeah.
Well, why is he giving you a ride?
Exactly. Well, yeah, same thing. Yeah. Clearly, he's not great, you know. But also, she's like, I could give you my number, but I have a boyfriend. So now you're putting it in my.
Oh no, she's just trying. Okay, you misread that situation.
But she also.
She was trying to cheat.
Exactly. But I was like, well, I don't want that because she's like, I can give it. She's making me make the decision if she can cheat.
Yeah, she was just trying to. Yeah, have her cake and eat it too.
No, and I'm like, hey, listen, there's plenty of other people on this quiet car that I can talk to. Okay.
You have to take the train back.
No, I went like 2 more stops and told my mom about it. So I was,
I did this girl in the butt in the quiet car. Yeah,
You're
maybe
like, are you
that's
into anal?
That's not fair. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe she was.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know if
maybe
she was trying to cheat.
trying
This
to
is just
trying to be honest.
Yeah, she was probably just trying.
But
to
it
be
was like I
honest.
said, it was a fun way to
cute.
talk to somebody for
Right.
40. Because
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like that's the same thing with me in the highway. I was just like we
Yeah.
were doing signs.
Yeah,
at
you and the
first.
highway broad. Yeah, it's very
We
similar.
were
very
just
cute.
doing signs
Yeah.
on a piece of paper.
Well,
where I was
mine
kinda
ended with
like-
her being in a relationship. Yours ended with you tasting her, which is very different.
Gross. Gross.
What about you? You have any good?
No.
Well,
He has
no.
nothing.
He's got nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, very boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
I'm trying to think
vanilla.
about.
I'm not very fun when it comes
Very
to that stuff.
vanilla.
Very vanilla.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right. Anything else? We got to talk about. I thought you had something else,
Yeah,
right?
we could talk about some stuff. Let's talk about who are some of your influences?
Stand up?
Just influences in general, like people that inspire you to wake up in the morning. Like, are there anybody that like you look up to that you're like, man, this person's great?
You could start
Vic?
with me and then.
Yeah, Vic. I mean, do you have something
wanna-
in mind? Do you
I
have-
meant start like his list starts with me and then.
You're goddamn
his
right.
name is Vic, actually. But
Hmm.
does anybody have anybody off the top of your head have anybody like that influences you to make you a better person in life? Like your parents or
Well, my lady friend's
comedian.
she's crushing it business wise, so I'm just trying not to get punked out by her making more money than me.
does that bother you?
Yeah.
That a girl makes more money than you?
No,
That
it has
bothers
nothing to
you?
do with gender. It's just like I'm competitive. Also, she wakes up and works and works all day, so like it makes me not be lazy.
What kind of work does she do? If you want to give her a plug.
She has a business partner, and I've been telling a lot of people what their product is, and she's been getting mad because it's pretty proprietary. So I don't think they want to be
shit.
I don't think they want to be ripped off.
You don't want to give her a plug.
So I won't give away what it is, but they work in like the cannabis edible space.
Okay.
But they
So
have this
she's a
thing.
drug dealer.
No, I mean they actually don't. Nothing they do with their product involves cannabis. They make
Okay, whatever. Okay, you don't have to.
But the thing and she invented it,
Oh, wow,
so
okay.
she's crushing it.
Oh,
So
good for
I
her.
get like
so you're inspired by her.
yeah, it's inspired. It's not just competitive. That's not fair. It also has nothing to do with a woman making more money. I think that's all of our dreams is to be sugar babies.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's great.
Yeah. It's one. That's the goal. Is
Yeah,
I would
it's how-
want
I
to be
mean-
pampered my whole life. No, absolutely. Please make more money than me.
Going back to I had a woman I went like a 2-week dating stint with. She was 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
Oh
And-
wow.
Hot.
Just paid for everything.
That's hot. That's hot.
She
Every day.
Yeah.
she took me to places,
Avocado
and this
toast.
was like again, I was like in my early 20s. She took me to places that like I used to drive by in Chicago, be like, man, I'd like to go in there one day.
Yeah.
So you were
like
you
go
were
in
you
there.
Yeah, she-
you-
Not,
you
not
were
even I want to own property.
No,
I
just
want
like
to be
go in there.
allowed in
Yeah.
there one
so
day.
you were like her fuckboy.
I was basically that. She would just call me up. She's like, hey, I want like let's go to this thing. She basically was I needed like hot arm candy.
Can we see a picture?
I have some. I might have some. I can throw it up. She might. I don't think she'd mind. But yeah, it was just great. It was like 2 weeks, and I think she was like in town for some like conference or something. Then she left, and she's
So
like,
you're
"Oh,
inspired by her?
yeah, that's inspiring. You know, that's pretty inspiring. No, I think comedically and just overall, Patrice O'Neal is my like biggest inspiration. Just from like I think on stage, what we try to emulate as comedians is like. I found the longer I do comedy, the best moments for me are like genuine, authentic moments on stage where it's like the audience can tell I'm being honest. And that can mean you fuck up a joke, you acknowledge it.
Sure.
Something happens in the room, you call it out. Like being 100% present, being 100% on. And I think that's like what Patrice was. And that's like my biggest overall, person. But I think, parents, like, I think that's why I work so hard is like my parents, like,
Your parents are hard
they didn't
workers.
have anything when they came here, My dad always like, I have a joke about it. He's like, I was like, it's hard to talk to immigrants about any of your problems because like your parents' problems are so much greater.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was like, Dad, dating is hard. He's like, I came to this country with $20 in my pocket. I was like, Dad, what does that have to do with me crushing puss? I'm trying to talk to you right now. I'm trying to have a real conversation. So it's like stuff like that where you're like, they just did so much more difficult stuff than us.
Right.
And so it
Well, that's
puts
the
it
purpose
into
of your parents, right? Is to make your life easier.
but it puts into perspective sometimes when you're like, this is hard, this is tough. You're like, there's much more adversity out there than we face. So they're always inspiring to me. And like not even knowing English as your first language, like all that shit,
Right.
So that's like probably my two right now. But what about you?
Well, I feel like my parents were. I mean, my parents have been married. How long have your parents been married?
Oh, it's like I think we're coming up on like 35.
Yeah. See, my parents have been married over 50 years together, which is fucking insane to me.
Who's Mexican, your dad or your mom?
My mom's side. But so I think like my dad was 21, my mom was 18 when they got married, and that's why I feel like things are just so different. And like when people talk about the 80s or the 90s, like, oh, we got to cancel this, we need it, and it's just like, dude, at times were just different. Like people thought differently.
What about them was cancelable? That she was 18?
that they were younger. Like
Is 18 and 21 weird? Is that? I didn't know that was weird.
No, but it's like, but they started dating. Like if he was 21, they got married then. So my dad was, you know what I'm saying? Like
She
they
was
were
16
probably.
when they started dating.
Yeah, and he was
a
probably
little-
20 or something.
Oh,
you know what
that's
I'm
a little
saying? Or
question.
19
Yeah.
or just, I'm just saying like it's just the point that people are always want to jump on some bullshit about saying things where like, but times were just different. So it's like you can't compare that. Like it's even like rock and roll stars. People are like, oh, that rock and roll star, like he's banging underage girls. I'm like, yeah, but he's not even that old at the time. Like, especially when we're talking about 50s people. Or let's just talk about the rockabilly or just 50s musicians. Okay, we'll bring that back to that. People talk about, oh, look at, Richie Valens or this and
What
that,
did Richie
banging
Valens
underage
do?
girls. Like, but he was only fucking 18 at the time, and he's singing about 16-year-old girls or 15-year-old
he's
girls.
18.
But they're younger. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not 40 years old. We think of musicians as always older, but they're not. Musicians are, especially when they first start, they're usually younger. It's very rare when somebody is a big musician starting at 25.
I get where you're coming from. You're saying that when like, you're a big Chris D'Elia fan. I do get what it sounds gross, but I do get what you're saying about how if you're like 17 years old and you became famous at 18 and your song's about hooking up with high schoolers, it's because you wrote that song when you were in high school.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it sounds
that
weird.
Makes, yeah.
And of course, but like I said, and then they're like singing the song.
That's like a funny thing to imagine is like a musician being like, I just want to remind y'all, I wrote this song about 3 years ago.
Blink-182, prime example.
That's a really good example.
That's a prime
pretty fair
example. Like those
actually.
songs they're singing about fucking banging high school chicks.
Yep.
And these
Yep.
guys
But
are
he's 42
40.
years old.
Right,
Yeah,
they're
people
40.
are like, that's gross. Well, he wrote it when he. Okay,
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. That's. I don't know where this conversation was even going with that, but I wanted to put that out there.
I'm surprised you managed to salvage it. I was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
not.
I was a little-
You got a little into that. I was like,
Tyler,
what?
time code this. We're gonna have to cut
Yeah,
this.
we're gonna have to cut most. But by the time we got to the end of that, I was like, okay, I kind of get.
I think
this.
though, if you made it this far in the episode with all the other shit we've said, I feel like you're like, yes, all right. I guess this is on brand for this
I
podcast.
thought you were about to defend that one guy who like married his like 14-year-old cousin.
Oh, Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah, I was like, damn, Pete.
What about
it
the
is-
other
no,
the
it is-
famous?
I mean, he was already older at that time, so that was fucking weird.
that's
and he was
not
in
okay.
trouble back then. Like
I
he
get
got
what
in
you
trouble
mean, though.
back
You
then.
mean like if you're like Blink-182 is a good example.
Yeah.
You're singing about high school relationships because you wrote that song when you were in high school,
Sure.
and now you're 42 years old at
Same
Warped
songs,
Tour.
but you're
Singing the
not.
same
You're not
songs.
saying now.
Right.
You're saying. Yeah.
But it is.
I just
that-
picture a band
Wait, well,
coming
you know,
out.
you guys did the Mick Jagger thing.
Yeah, he just had another
Yeah,
baby.
he like well,
That's-
no, he
yeah.
didn't have another. Maybe
no,
it's
who's
not
it?
Mick Jagger, maybe it's somebody else, but another like older rock star like him, like admitted to hooking up with an underage girl
yeah.
in his memoirs.
Which
and-
is crazy.
And he like bragged about it, and he was much older. He was like in his 20s
Yeah.
or 30s,
Yeah.
and he was like,
You don't remember who it was?
I don't remember who it was, but he's an idiot, and he was like, he was just like, yeah, I was hooking up with this
Yeah.
16-year-old.
That just broke. I feel. Yeah, I don't know who it was. I think it was Mick Jagger. Sounds right, but I don't want to.
I don't want to libel Mick Jagger.
Yeah,
it was some old.
It was a big enough person though.
But I'm like, why would you admit to this? And then
Trying to sell those books.
Trying to sell those books.
Yeah.
Well, I think there was a story too about the
Shitty,
the guys
yeah.
from the Who, where he
God.
came out and was saying like, he's like they found child porn. And he's like, I was doing research for this, and he was like, I think it was one of the
Really?
guys from the Who, and he ended up getting off.
He got off?
He got
Yeah,
off.
he did.
For it.
Bro, no.
He got off. More did he get off?
Okay, none of this is usable.
Sorry,
None
I
of this is
apologize.
usable.
Oh, it's a joke, for the love of Christ. But yeah, no, but yeah.
That is.
That's gross. Yeah, that's pretty
It's
bad.
not good. Not good.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was Mick Jagger, but it was someone I remember hearing.
It
that
was a
being
big
like,
enough person.
I thought you were talking about who's the famous guy who just had a
just-
child just recently. They had another.
Al Pacino just had a child.
Oh, Al
That's-
Pacino.
that's the one.
What I'm
That's
thinking.
what
That's what I was
his-
thinking of. He
yeah.
just had
The
a
Mick
baby.
Jagger one, or again, I can't keep saying Mick Jagger. I have no idea if it's him, but I heard the
Say rock star.
Rockstar. A lawyer was talking about it. I watched
So
like a
how
YouTube
old
video
is-
on it, and the lawyer was like, "Oh, it's a slam dunk case."
Who's Al Pacino with? I thought he was with Vacation Girl.
No, he's with like a
Young-
20-something-year-old.
But I don't know how long they've been together, all that shit. But either way, it's like even if they were together for 10 years, he was 70. Like it's
Yeah.
not.
Well, that's what I'm
it's
saying.
still
So
not,
it's like, when is it?
Yeah.
I guess the better question is like, what is too old for people to be together? Like, is it just because I'm 18, so now I'm legal, so I can be with anybody?
I'm not getting
any
involved
age?
in this. I'm not getting involved in this because I don't have.
I'm not trying to defend it. I'm just asking,
just asking
a
what's the
general
rule.
question. I'm
What's the
asking
rule,
a
yeah.
general rule. Like, is
Yeah.
18 an age? You're like, okay, because like I said, you look at porn. It's like 18's the age, and then it's like,
and that stuff is weird too.
it is weird
Yeah.
because, like I said, it's
I don't like that. I think that stuff is so weird. Where they're like, "She just turned 18." I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's not." That's,
right. I have no interest in
Where
that.
are her
Do you
parents?
have any friends in the 90s who were counting down to Mary Kate and Ashley being...
Oh, there were definitely
People did that with-
I think it was an ongoing joke
Or
that
like
people
the-
just did.
Well,
that.
people did that with Justin Bieber.
People were doing that
Yeah.
with that bad
That was
baby
gross.
girl who
That
ended up
shit is
going
so
fucking
But,
crazy.
okay, now that's an interesting topic. Is saying the adding. See, that's the problem with adding an age to where you're like, okay, at this age, it's
It's okay.
perfectly okay
It's
to
okay.
sexualize them
Yeah.
because then it's like,
It
well,
is.
that's
You're
even creepy.
You're also
yeah.
clearly you've already been sexualizing them. You're just wondering until you can tell people.
Yeah,
about
you're
it.
almost like, yeah, right. You're
Totally,
like
it
snitching
is.
on
That's why
yourself.
You've been
weird.
ogling them for quite some
Yeah,
time, but now you're like,
creepy.
okay, now I can say it publicly.
Yeah,
right.
I think it's just I think it's if you're being like technical about it, you're being gross. Or if you're just like it's your parents, where you're like, well, they met in high school in a different time, and they've been together for
Yeah.
30 years, 50 years, 50 years,
50 over 50.
50 years. It's like, well, no one's gonna say anything negative about it,
Right.
But if you're just like a gross 30-year-old dude who's like
Yeah.
trying to pick up college chicks. And you end up like and then you're like, I hooked up with an 18-year-old. You're like, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
You shouldn't, you're a
shouldn't be
shitty
doing
person.
that. Also, like you shouldn't be in the same places. As
Yeah, why are you even in the same
You
places?
should- there's
Well,
no
going
overlap.
back to what I was telling you
Yeah.
earlier when you were making fun of me about T.I., you're like, oh, I'm like, where would I go where I would hear that kind of
Yeah.
shit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Point.
saying? That's my point. Is like, I'm a 46-year-old man. I'm not going to clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to the same places that you guys really even go to.
Yeah.
You know, I go to different places.
Yeah.
I go to nice places. You
go
guys
to nice
shit.
places.
No, I go
Yeah,
to
you're picking up chicks at the side of the highway.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
you're
I mean,
so
I
I
got
go
a
to
definitely,
1994. Have you been there?
Yeah. I'm going to Popeyes by California.
It's a good place, man.
God,
It's finger
yeah.
licking good. Well, that's.
Oh,
Oh, all right, all right.
Oh, jeez, I went too far. Ugh.